Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online divorce, mediation, and valuation services in St. Louis, Missouri. We're speaking today with T.H. Irwin and Jessica Klingbaum, the exEXPERTS, about advice and resources for divorcing couples. They're divorce mentors, and their mission is to educate, empower, and support people to make the best decisions for their outcomes. Welcome, TH and Jessica. How are you?
Thank you so much for having us today.
We are great. So happy to be here with you.
But then if you then get prepared and you have this conversation, and you guys, your situations might be a little bit different, but I know you mentor a lot of divorcing couples. Do what?
My second one wasn't, though. My second one was having to have the discussion.
Yeah. And I think you're right. That discussion is harder when you don't hate the person and you maybe have but you also don't love the person anymore. So talk to us about how you guys recommend people have discussions with their spouse or how you did it. And, how can, because this is the biggest piece of it kind of that starts the whole waterfall, if you will.
I think that we're both huge advocates of therapy. And so I would say, if you are in a marriage with someone that you at least respect, even if you don't feel like you're in love with them anymore, you don't feel like this is going to work out in the long run. If you're in a marriage with someone that you respect, then I strongly suggest that you go to couples therapy, because at the very least, you may learn something, whether it's about how to have the conversation in a more productive way, or there may actually be obstacles that you can overcome and you may be able to work it out in the long run. We just had a whole conversation with one of our exEXPERTS about how do you know when to mend or to end. So I think that couples therapy is crucial. And I think that having that conversation is really scary. Like I ended up we had some independent sessions with our therapist without each other in them. And I had said to her, like, I need your help because I don't know that I have the courage to really say it out loud, even though I knew what was going to be coming. So I think that how you have to say it, depending on your circumstances, I wanted it to be a gentle conversation. It's not like it's not personal, but it's almost not personal. We are not compatible together. We have spoken about the fact that we don't feel like we bring out the best in each other. And we've spoken about the fact that neither of us is so happy. So I think that it's time to move on. I think that it's not working out. This is not how I want to feel for the rest of my life. And I know it's not how you want to feel for the rest of your life. And this isn't what marriage has to be. I think that for so many of us, you get to a point where like everything in your marriage is rote, and you're just used to the routine. And it's like, this sucks and this sucks. And you're complaining with your friends about like, she sucks and he sucks. And it's everybody's in the same boat. So you kind of are like, I think this is what marriage is all about at a certain point. I don't believe that that's true. I think that marriage becomes that when you're not communicating with each other, and it becomes that if you've grown apart. But if you really, I just couldn't picture, you have to sit down and think like, can I picture my life for the next 40 years every day like this? And I think that conversation has to be very delicate. And I think you have to be really sensitive to the words that you use and the way that you phrase things, especially if you think you want to try to proceed with some kind of an amicable divorce, whether you think you want to mediate, if you think you want to have a collaborative divorce, you have to be really conscious of the way that you broach that conversation. I did it in the therapist's office with the three of us. I felt like that was a safe space and that we would both feel more free to be able to express ourselves.
I would just say one other thing. I just know difficult conversations that I've had to have with him as a difficult person. And I would write it down. I'd literally write a script. It's almost like a letter to him. And then I would let it sit and get rid of the stuff that I know is not going to be productive. It just made me feel better to put it down. And I honestly, my therapist made me practice reading it because first of all, when you're with a difficult person, being in their presence, even if nothing's being said, is enough to make you crawl out of your own skin. So I was fine for the 4 years he wasn't around because he wasn't around.
Mm-hmm.
But then to have this conversation, if it were to have gone down differently, I would have had to write, I would have had to rehearse, and I probably would have looked down at my paper the entire time. But at least you're getting the words out that are most important to you. You cannot leave it to, I'm going to wing it. You have to really think it through. And like Jessica was saying, even if it's not an amicable divorce and you're divorcing a difficult person, there are ways that you need to say things
Mhm.
because you need to still make them feel a little like a hero, even though they're so not. So you make it about the relationship, not a matter of fault, even though in their head, they're thinking it's totally her fault.
Mhm.
So that's what I would say. Be prepared for any difficult conversation, whether it's saying you want a divorce, whether it's talking about stuff with the kids, whatever it is. The hardest thing is to do it in person. So if you can do it with a therapist, or you can do it with your brother there, or whatever, the dog, like support animals are good at this time.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself. It's really hard. It's really
Uh,
hard.
that I love both of those, and I think that they give very good perspectives. Even in most towns, I do a lot of divorce, obviously, but we even have therapists and every around the country. You even have therapists that are not just couples therapists to keep you together, but they actually are kind of therapists to help you through the divorcing process. Even with if you have kids, we have some specialists in town that are really, they're not really there to keep you together, and they're not there to take you apart. They're there to say, okay, if this is the process you're going to go about, let us support you individually and as a couple. And these are volatile. One thing that I know from doing a lot of mediation is that people will not react like crazy, lose their shit if there's an audience.
Right.
Now, if it's just you two and you have a propensity to everything escalates, you're not gonna be in a safe, like you said, a safe space, a safe protected space. But having that audience at least allows that conversation to happen initially, that maybe won't have a lot of hurt come
Right.
out, and venom, if you
Right.
will,
Yes.
in that space. So those
Right.
were amazing. And with yours, with TH, with saying you do have to practice with a narcissist, because a
Yeah.
narcissist is going to find every hole in your theory, in your position, in what you say, and they're going to drill it home to you. And so you really do have to have it, like, this is how I feel, regardless of your gaslighting, regardless of you, if you say that this
Well,
is
you would
not
never
how I
say
feel.
that.
Huh?
You would never say regardless of your gaslighting.
Right.
Regardless of you being a complete blah, blah, blah. No, you would never say that. But I will say also one other thing I want to say, addressing what we were saying before. If your safety is at all compromised, or the safety of your kids are at all compromised, there's no conversation. You go to a shelter, you go to the police, you go to a family, you go somewhere safe, and you get out, and there's no anything else. So I just want to make sure that we address that part of it. The other thing is venom will be spewed. It will be. Like, I didn't know when, like, maybe it was the fifth time he told me that this was actually all my fault, that I just like the alien came out from my innards and just like blew up in the room. And I'd never even yelled like that before. I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm like a super villain right now, and I'm going to come and eat your head. But that's what I did. And it felt great after. So not every conversation is going to be, like planned and everything. And it's okay to spew venom, but just make sure you're like outside and not at your spouse's house, and he or she is not inside of your house. Like, pick a neutral space where you can both kind of go to your own corners. Like, you're not
Yeah.
stuck with them.
And I think that one of the bigger takeaways is that, if these situations happen and you are caught off guard, you do need to take some time to step back and identify your options, and identify your safety needs, identify your financial needs, and that reacting sometimes is going to cut off your capability to assess those pieces. you
Right.
know, because now somebody's throwing your stuff out of the door, pushing you out. I mean, you don't have any control at that point. At the beginning, you have control over the information because you haven't had that conversation yet.
Right. Right.